I'll call to order the meeting of Monday, December the 12th. If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Here.
Councilmember Moeller.
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have before you the minutes from the regular meeting of November the 28th and the regular meeting of December the 5th. Do we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Cole. Is there any additions or deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will be submitted as they were. And we have presentations. We have 3 of them tonight, so we'll start with the first one. If the clerk would please read it.
City Attorney Gary A. Fletcher will discuss the I-69 International Trade Corridor proposal.
Good evening, everybody. I was asked to come here tonight to go over the I-69 corridor proposal and specifically the agreement. There have been a lot of issues raised regarding the agreement, and honestly, I've spent more time going over this agreement than any one that I've gone over in a long time because of the amount of controversy that it seemed to generate, and I honestly can't tell you that I'm sure why. As was explained to you by Mr. Casey, what this is all about is a program, the Next Michigan program, created by the state of Michigan. And as we all know, there are a lot of goods coming into our country, and particularly the state of Michigan, because we're a main corridor with the bridge, the rail, the things we have here. And the idea was, if they're coming here anyways, why not capitalize on them coming here, either through logistics centers, plants that use goods that are coming from outside of the country, where they use more than one method of transportation, like we have air, rail, water, and obviously highways. State of Michigan thought it was a good idea that we capitalize on what assets we have here to try to capture those goods before they go to other logistics centers. I think there's a big one in Indiana, there's another one in Chicago, and the idea was to try to capitalize on the assets we have to get some of those jobs here. That's what this is about. It's about job creation. So the legislation was passed, and it was passed primarily because of the Aerotropolis project that Wayne County wanted to get off the ground, where they would create this big logistics center, manufacturing center. They wanted special tax breaks that they could give that, well, at least in the beginning, nobody else could. And theirs went first. They got approved first. And an interesting story, the county worked with EDA and another local jurisdiction competing for, ties into this, competing for an enormous plant to hopefully that would land here in St. Clair County, about $130 million in investment, big opportunity. Started multi-state competition, got down to sites in Michigan, got down to 2 sites, one here in St. Clair County, one in the Aerotropolis project. And the advantage they had over us was the tax breaks they could give under this law that we could not give. So they had a big competitive advantage that way. We're still hoping for a good outcome our way, but for other reasons. But that's what this program would allow St. Clair County in general and the city of Port Huron in particular as a participant to do to compete for these jobs and these opportunities that exist. This agreement has been called a lot of things at the meetings I've been. Number one, people have expressed concerns that it was an effort to basically usurp local authority in cities, villages, townships, and give them to this corporation board. And I'm here to tell you that's not accurate. I don't believe that anybody has intentionally misrepresented anything, that it's the way they truly believed or understood the agreement when they read it. But I've reviewed it, again, very carefully, reviewed it and discussed it with the attorney who prepared it, and reviewed all the legislation under which it was enacted. And this City Council, should you choose to approve it, will not give up any planning authority, zoning authority, budgeting authority. They cannot obligate you to be responsible for any debts unless you were to agree to assume debts and be responsible for them. You give up no zoning, planning. Any Renaissance zones, if they were to exist, would have to be approved by this council. Bottom line is that no local sovereignty or authority is given up. The other thing that has been talked about a lot with regard to this agreement is that it's some effort to create what's been called a NAFTA corridor or transportation corridor. And I think that came, well, I don't think, I know it did, came from a highway or transportation corridor that Rick Perry proposed in Texas that collapsed. It never happened. And it was going to be rail and super highways and all kinds of stuff. And it never got off the ground and it was never built, but it was a concept that was out there. I can tell you from reviewing this and talking to the people involved, this has nothing to do with widening I-69, taking private property, creating rail lines, anything like that, for a couple reasons. First of all, it isn't in the agreement, it isn't in the act, number one, and number two, you have no jurisdiction to do that. You don't regulate I-69, that's a federal highway, and you don't regulate railroads, the federal government does. So even if anybody thought that might be a good idea, you have no jurisdiction over that anyways. So bottom line is, I reviewed this. My opinion is the contract is well written. The gentleman that did it knows what he's doing and has done a lot of this kind of work for decades. I think it's being done for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to permit the city of Port Huron, other jurisdictions in St. Clair County, Marysville's passed it, St. Clair passed it, St. Clair Township passed it, the county passed it, and other counties involved have passed it, plus numerous other cities and villages in those counties. And the idea is to collaborate together, to work together, to try to market our area, to try to bring transportation-related, logistics-related businesses or businesses here like factories and things of that nature that use multiple methods of transportation. I see no issues with the contract at all, and assuming as a policy, from a policy point of view that you want to go ahead with this, I recommend it in terms of a program and in terms of the content of the contract. Beyond that, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Does anyone on council have questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Morris.
Gary, I've talked to some people and stuff, and some of the problems that we anticipate here that we've heard about, my understanding, the other end of the corridor in Texas, they've had the problems that some of these people hear about eminent domain and the types of things that everybody's afraid what's going to happen here. And my difficulty with it is the fact that I've heard that's happened. And I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but
I actually am. And this program has nothing to do with that. Texas, and again, it was Governor Rick Perry, actually he envisioned this, I think, when he was in the legislature. I've checked it on the internet and read articles about it. Also, there was a segment on the news a couple nights ago about it. It was pretty interesting. And this has nothing to do with that. That actually was a plan for a super transportation corridor designed to suit NAFTA. This is not that at all. There's no plan here to create railroads or additional rail lines to expand I-69. It has nothing to do with that. It's to basically create incentives, marketing, and planning that would help us hopefully capture logistics-based businesses or those that use multiple modal transportation, so air, freight, air, rail, and so on. And this kind of got off on that tangent, and I understand, because that Texas program was really a debacle. It just didn't work out at all. This is not that at all.
Any other questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
Two of the questions I keep getting asked the most are, one, will the I-69 Corridor Corporation have the power of eminent domain, and what will it take us to get out of this contract if we wanted to?
It does not have the power of eminent domain, but if it did, the individual jurisdictions do, but the state constitution says what I heard raised as a concern is somebody's property could be taken to take private property to give it to another private user. And the Michigan Constitution, the voters a few years ago passed an amendment to the Michigan Constitution that makes it unlawful to do that. It can only be taken for a public purpose, which would be a highway or a rail line as it might relate to this project, and you have no jurisdiction over either of those things, nor does this corporation. Only the federal government would. Secondly, the city, if it chooses to do so, can get out of this agreement on very short notice. I think it's either 60 or 90 days. 6 months' notice of withdrawal. What it says is, and I don't know how this can be read any different than this, I reviewed it, had other people look at it to see if I was missing something, and it says, any party may withdraw from the agreement at any time upon giving 6 months' notice in advance to the corporation. And then it says, and the corporation thereafter shall exercise no power or authority within the territory of the withdrawing entity. So if you withdraw, you're out, and they have no power to exercise any authority in the city of Port Huron. The only thing that's a caveat, it says, if you assumed any financial obligation, that stays yours, which makes sense. If you assume something under a contract and then you get out of the contract, your obligations stay with you until you've paid it off. And number two, if any tax abatement was approved or any Renaissance zone abatements, those aren't negated by the fact that you get out, which they shouldn't be, because if you make those commitments and a company comes to Port Huron based on those commitments and then you get out, your commitment to them shouldn't go away because they're still here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thanks.
You're welcome.
We will move on to presentation number 2.
Members of the Port Huron Police Department will make a presentation on community policing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, and residents of Port Huron. Tonight's the night that the Port Huron Police Department would like to unveil its revised community policing program. Let me say a couple things. First off, when I came here, I realized in looking at our mission statement that one of the things that we had to have was a partnership with the citizens. And I thought we were lacking there, to be candid with you. I thought that we could do a better job than what we were doing, and for whatever reason, that relationship wasn't to where it should be. And through the 9 months, we've worked very hard in the community, with different groups, and I think we've taken the initial steps to begin to repair that relationship and enhance it. But that's not enough. I'll tell you, if you don't have continuous improvement in the way we do business, the concept of status quo went out with the height requirement in police work. Status quo doesn't get it anymore. Every day, you got to take another step and improve in your business. And I look at us in the business of delivering services. First thing I want to bring to mind is that the members of the Port Huron Police Department are committed to providing the highest quality professional police services. We strive to protect life, enforce and uphold the law, preserve order, and protect property. In partnership with the citizens, city government, and other stakeholders, we commit ourselves to improving the quality of life in our community. That says a whole lot if you think about it. But in addition to that, I want to define what we believe community policing and problem solving is about. Because we won't get through our problems by just policing. It's much larger than that. It takes much more. We have to be problem solvers. It's a philosophy that promotes an organizational strategies which support the systematic use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques to proactively address the immediate conditions that give rise to public safety issues such as crime, social disorder, and fear of crime. Problem-solving techniques. I will tell you that we, and the citizens of Port Huron are blessed, which I believe, I might be a little biased here, the finest police department in the area, okay? And the state police are here, and they're going to say the same thing, and the sheriff, as they should be. But mine's the best today. And I'll tell you, they work very hard, they're well-trained, they're very bright individuals, and I believe in them to such that I think we should empower them to make decisions for the citizens, with the citizens, in order to solve problems. That's what we have them out there, to solve problems. So the components are our strategy. One is community partnerships, and that's collaborative partnerships between law enforcement agency and the individuals and organizations they serve to develop solutions to the problems and increase the trust in the police. That's one of the things that's part of the strategy. 2, problem solving. In a nutshell, the process of engaging in the proactive and systematic examination of identified problems, develop effective responses that are evaluated rigorously. And this is based on the SARA model, if anybody's familiar with that concept. The last one's probably the most important, and that's what we've been going through about the last 9 months. Organizational transformation. The alignment of organizational management, structure, personnel, and information systems to support community partnerships and proactive problem solving. That's where we're at tonight. We've realigned ourselves internally. We've changed our thought process. We've changed our delivery of service. We changed how we do things. We've empowered people to do their jobs. And we've also instituted accountability, which was a critical part of this process. But our community policing program is about our community in a partnership between police, businesses, schools, churches, and citizens, designed not only to solve crime, but to help solve community-related problems. Criminal behavior must be made socially unacceptable and economically unrewarding as well as unlawful. Thus, the people must become directly involved in solving community issues or crimes and total community wellness. And I'm a firm believer that we cannot do it our own. We cannot police our way through. So as we go through this, I'm going to have several officers give you parts of the presentation. We're also going to have a couple citizens that are going to give you their views of the program. We'll start with Corporal Lee Heighton.
Mayor Rep, City Council members, City Manager Brown, and the citizens of Port Huron. My name is Lee Heighton. I'm a corporal for the City of Port Huron Police Department. Chief Reeves came to the City of Port Huron in March of 2011 with a vision for this department and the City of Port Huron. This vision is to see that the Port Huron Police Department works in unison with the citizens of Port Huron to revitalize the neighborhoods and improve the quality of life within our city. The new Port Huron Police Community Policing Program is a first step towards bringing this vision into reality. This is the new logo for the concept. I'd like to recognize Sergeant Brian Georgia, Dare Community Services Officer Laura Phillips, and City Planning Coordinator Rita Ernst for designing this logo for us. The 23 community policing zones were created using input from officers and citizens regarding calls for service and the types of calls that are predominant in each zone. The zones were established using this input along with consideration of demographics and geographical makeup of each zone. The concerns for Zone 1 are much different than for Zone 11. Zone 1, can you go back just for a second? Zone 1, which you see at the top of the chart, may have concerns related to Port Huron Northern High School and seasonal parking issues related to Lakeside Beach. Zone 11, more towards the center, may be concerned with open-air drug sales or related violent crimes. The smaller zones are where the department has typically seen the highest numbers of calls for service and/or a higher percentage of violent crimes. An example is Zone 13 had shots fired with recovered shell casings a couple of weeks ago and a recent raid on a known drug house. Think of the zones as communication zones. And by communication, I mean not only to speak, but to listen. This is an evolving plan, and the zone parameters will be modified or amended as necessary to meet the needs of the community or the needs of a particular zone. Each zone will have 4 levels of coverage. And this is what the map will look like. I understand you can't read it as an example of the resources that are being placed for each zone. Go ahead, one more. The primary officer will be responsible for contact and communication within each zone. This will include neighborhood watch captains, businesses within the zone, church representatives, schools located within the zone, and complaints or concerns of citizens within their zone. The officer's job is to understand the unique policing needs of their respective zone. The secondary officer will take responsibility for the zone if the primary officer is on vacation or will be unavailable for any significant period of time. Our goal here is to have uninterrupted communication throughout the city. The sector supervisor oversees the various zones to ensure proper communication and to track any crime trends that may jump from zone to zone. The lieutenant, one assigned to each half of the city, will report directly to the captain and chief semi-annually to determine any necessary adjustments to the zone parameters. Primary zone officer will report any needs for special police enforcement or other assistance to their supervisor to combat specific issues within their zones. Some of these requests could include targeted road patrol enforcement, dedicated bike patrols, detective bureau personnel, to report illegal narcotic activity to the new Port Huron Police Department DICE unit, blight and quality of life concerns, and church or community group assistance or intervention. The primary officer will also be responsible to communicate information from the police department to the citizens within their zone. Any suspicious activity that has come to our attention within the zone, crime prevention information, upcoming meetings and/or special events in the zone, services offered from support agencies, church groups, VIPs, etc. The primary officer is responsible to assist in developing new neighborhood watch programs within their respective zones. This is intended to be a two-way means of communication between the Port Huron Police Department and the citizens of the community. This program will allow officers to develop policing strategies unique to their own zone. As an example of this, I would like to introduce Officer Dennis Heisman. You should know that what Officer Heisman is about to discuss has been developed on his own initiative before the community-oriented policing program has even been officially launched.
Good evening. I'm Officer Dennis Heisman, and I've been part of the Port Huron Police Department for just shy of 2 years now. I am here to give a zone officer's view of the new community-oriented police program. Just over a month ago, Chief Reeves started to get the ball rolling with this new program. Officers were assigned a neighborhood and were set loose to start implementing new ideas in their respected zones. Officers are assigned their zones and are allowed to use their imagination and personal ideas to help prevent and start getting the ball rolling with the information coming in. I chose to be assigned to Zone 15. There's no maps, but the Zone 15 is the blue square just south of Port Huron High School. My area includes the southern part of Port Huron High School down to the railroad tracks. I have made myself familiar with my zone over the last 2 years working the area and the rest of the city, but I've made it my own personal goal to know everything there is to know about my neighborhood in the next couple months. I have been in contact with parole, probation, and the assessors department upstairs, obtaining information on people in my zone and vacant buildings, getting maps, houses that have been forgotten by people that have left the city. Just an idea of the information I have gathered. I started this binder a week ago, and it had 2 pieces of paper in it. As you can see, that's how much information I've got in the last week of people, vacant homes, everything in my zone. I plan on scheduling neighborhood watch meetings where I will be able to meet concerned citizens and business owners. With the help of questionnaires I have developed, and they will be available to everyone in my zone that I can obtain. And with these questionnaires, I'll be able to get to know those who live in my neighborhood and introduce myself to those people. I want to become a household name with the citizens. When a problem arises, citizens should not be hesitant to contact the police department. They should be able to trust that the person they contact will get the job done. With a personal bond with the citizens, I believe that a direct channel of information from the community to the police department will be established. With information provided by concerned citizens, I will be able to find solutions to problems, solve, and prevent crimes with the resources I have provided to me and available to me here at the police department. No matter what the concern is, I want to know about it. A dog that keeps getting loose in a neighborhood, a house that needs its lawn cared for, or a drug house on the corner. Citizens know what is going on at all times in a neighborhood, and with the establishment of this program, they will have an officer that they know and trust that they can contact to get the job done. I have big plans for my zone. The police department is backing each officer 100% and giving us a blank slate to run with. Once information starts coming in, we can start making some positive steps forward to make each community one each citizen will be proud to live in. I hope to meet everyone in my zone in the upcoming meetings and through personal contacts, door to door. I have spoken to officers, and they are just as excited as me to get this program running. I want to thank everyone for showing their interest in the community-oriented policing program, and I'm always free to sit down and discuss my visions for this program and anyone in or outside of my zone.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about neighborhood watches and a few other things. Neighborhood Watch is an organized effort by concerned citizens to improve the quality of life in their neighborhood in cooperation with their police department, neighbors, to work to safeguard each other's homes and reduce the risk of crime in their community. How our Neighborhood Watch works in Port Huron is essentially we work with what works for your Neighborhood Watch group. If you look at the map, you'll see that some areas are very small, some are very large. The groups all at least have one captain or coordinator, but many of them have several captains as they cover many blocks. With the areas that have many captains, usually what happens is they're responsible for each of their blocks that they live on. And sometimes they take in a few other blocks that do not have a Neighborhood Watch captain. Some of the things we discuss at a Neighborhood Watch meeting are educating the citizens about how we contact police and when. For example, for in-progress emergencies, people dial 911. For general calls of service, they can call Central Dispatch at 985-8115. With our new program in the community-oriented police programs, people can call the zone officer at the telephone number that's going to be given out, as well as their email address listed on the website. And these go, usually people call with ongoing problems in their neighborhood or quality of life issues. Some of the programs we're currently offering at the Port Huron Police Department are the Citizens Police Academy. It's a 12-week program starting in February and ending in April. And it's every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. and runs till 9 p.m. During the Citizens Police Academy, citizens learn various aspects of police work. This includes lecture and hands-on training. This then introduces those citizens to the volunteer and policing program. It's another partnership between citizens and the police to curb crime in their community. If anyone is interested in the Citizens Police Academy, there are applications online at porthuronpolice.org or porthuron.org. To talk a little bit about Neighborhood Watch and how it worked in her neighborhood, I'd like to introduce Kathy Solomon.
Good evening, everyone, and first thing I want to say is I'm not a public speaker. Our neighborhoods, in our neighborhood, and I think probably most of the neighborhoods in this town, are being consumed by drugs and crime and blight. We've given it an environment where it's just flourished. Port Huron is facing many multifaceted challenges right now, and it's going to require multifaceted solutions. I think the Neighborhood Watch programs is definitely part of that solution. I think it can be one of the parts that's the fabric that will rebuild this community and make it what it can be, what it was, and even better than we ever knew it, those of us that have been here a long time. When a Neighborhood Watch group is formed, it's the citizens saying that they're making a commitment to themselves, to their neighbors, and to their communities. And it's the same commitment that our police department, our new chief, and his officers have made to us. It meshes those commitments and it begins a process. When we started our own Neighborhood Watch, it was started with the encouragement and the support of Officer Phillips and Chief Reeves. There are so many benefits that our neighborhood personally has reaped from this Neighborhood Watch. I couldn't name them all tonight, but I can say just briefly, all of us that live in our Neighborhood Watch now feel very strongly we're in a safer, more connected neighborhood. I'm seeing neighbors caring about neighbors. I see interaction between neighbors that never knew each other before, maybe someone who's been there 40 years and someone who just moved in with their kids 2 years ago. it improves the quality of life in that neighborhood. And as I prepared for tonight, I can't tell you, actually right up until like 6:30, my phone was ringing with people saying, remember to tell them this, remember to tell them that. It was a pain, but you know what? It told me how involved everybody's gotten. It's that kind of commitment that can rebuild not just my neighborhood, but all of this town and this community. Make it what it should be. And I have seen personally, people have began where when an officer went through the neighborhood, they go, here's the cops. They're not. Little kids, I've seen little kids stop and wave now. That tells me that mom and dad's perception of the police department, they're seeing them as who they are, moms and dads and sons and daughters, and maybe even our neighbors in some cases. This Neighborhood Watch program, if we can work with it and encourage it, it can be and should be the very fabric that will rebuild this community. We've been very blessed to still have our own police department, and people know that. And I think when you look at this, each of these neighborhoods, as we look at the maps, it's almost like a giant puzzle. And what is happening with the Neighborhood Watches as we see the programs that they've talked about tonight, it's like putting a puzzle together and you're seeing the finishing piece to make it happen. And I think, God willing, we're going to get there. I think we're going to see a lot better Port Huron, better quality of life for all of us. And it's not just about people who own homes. It's the people that are renting homes. They got to want this just like we do, because it's possible and we can do it. I thank you for your time.
Next to tell us about our volunteer and policing program is Bev Woolman.
My name is Beverly Woolman, and I live at 1412 Minnie Street here in the city. And I would like to talk about the VIPs program at the Port Huron Police Department. VIPs stand for Volunteers in Police Service. Several years ago, the Port Huron Police Department acquired funding for the Citizens Police Academy. The main objective of this academy was to show citizens who were interested what our police officers do on a daily basis during their shift hours. The academy met weekly and lasted approximately 4 months. The only requirements were residency, a background check, and fingerprints. There was no cost to the students or the taxpayers. During this class time, participating officers demonstrated every facet of their daily routine, such as traffic violations, accident reports, domestic violence calls, drug bust, home invasions, neighbor complaints, and much more. Upon completion of this course, everyone is invited to become a VIP, where we meet monthly and hear of upcoming events and sign up for duty. How often you volunteer is completely up to the individual, and whatever time you give is appreciated by the department. We become the extra eyes, ears, and hands for the police department. VIPs are used during all the parades held in the city and several of the charity runs where traffic control is needed. The VIPs provide extra help so more of our officers can be where needed on their regular patrols throughout the city. VIPs also have attended and spoke at Neighborhood Watch meetings where we give our support and commitment to the neighborhood captains. VIPs were visible in the downtown area during the Blue Water Festival, especially boat night, Summer on the River band concerts, and the power boats. We have been helping the city with the Blight program, where we ride through the city by sections and take pictures and write notes on areas that need to be visited by the professionals in that department. Some of the VIPs have been working in the office area at the police department doing filing and other related office tasks. On Friday and Saturday nights, we do patrol within the city limits, which include checking schools and buildings for locked doors and all around checking of the area, following a list of locations that are normally checked by officers. These are very low-risk areas and again will relieve officers to the more high-risk areas where they are needed. If we see anything suspicious, a call into the department dispatch will summon an officer to the site. During the Christmas season's evening shopping hours, the VIPs are cruising local shopping areas to help ensure the safety of Port Huron citizens. Funding has already been received to start a new academy starting around February the 9th, 2012. Attending the academy and being supportive of our police department has been a great personal satisfaction to me and given me a new outlook on what can be accomplished in making Port Huron the best that it can be. The VIPs are a proud and willing group of citizens committed to help our Police Chief Reeves and his officers make our city a safer place to live and raise our families. Thank you.
As you can see, it takes great community participation to make the community policing program work. Community-oriented policing's main principles involve collaboration, partnerships, and community participation. These principles tie into our citizens, local businesses, volunteer groups, schools, and our churches, which is why we invited Tom Seppo from Operation Transformation.
Mayor, councilmen, Mr. Manager, I was told, Chief, that you gave me 15 minutes to talk. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cut to the chase here. Quote is, like it or not, we live in interesting times. That was a quote from Robert F. Kennedy in the 60s. And we live in the same kind of days. If you remember, the drugs and the hippies got going on in that time, and we found ourselves in a very interesting place in our society. You know what? We find ourselves in a very interesting place today. There is a lot of activity that's going on with drugs and with the young people and different things. Seems like some hopelessness. And, you know, the church is starting to rise to the occasion. I think Chief is onto something here. The church has been the biggest source of untapped resources available to the city. We have the opportunity to see the church and state collaborate together to bring peace, safety, wholeness, and justice to our community. And this comes about by having a paradigm shift. And I think that, you know, we talk so much about separation, we need to talk about cooperation. Amen. And so that's what we're attempting to do. I can't tell you how excited I am. I believe that the church is probably positioned itself, not just by chance, but I think by the Spirit of God, for this day and for this purpose. As you can see, this past year we have had a very unprecedented thing happen within the churches in our community. We've had over 58 churches cooperate together on various outreach and service projects, which, you know, we have 3 different associations. And can you believe that we're starting to see these walls knocked down and we're starting to cooperate and work together? I think that there's a new spirit that is moving and brewing in our city. And I think it's about high time that we take opportunity and cash in on this when we can cooperate and work together to see this city turn around and to change. We had this initiative called Each, Everyone a Chance to Hear. You see, it all starts in that of pastors coming together to pray. For the last year, we've had 15 to 20 pastors every Thursday morning coming together to pray together. Blacks and whites, right down the middle, breaking down these walls of separation and race and culture. And we're starting to see some really neat things happen. We did a river walk, a cleanup along the Atchison property. Over 50 people came and worked with other people from the Community Foundation. We were getting involved with the supplying food for the backpack programs for low-income children. We took 256 at-risk kids down to a Tiger ball game with the program called Home Plate, where kids got to meet some of the professional ball players, and they had a clinic, and they also got to see a ball game too. And they had inspirational communication from some of the ball players that were inspiring our youth. We've had over 5 community services working together over the 3 different ministerial associations. Also, we've had 7 churches come together and literally go door to door in precincts 10, 9, and 8 throughout the summer and the fall months. Going door to door and just knocking, asking if there's anything that we can pray with the family, the household concerning different issues that they were having. Also, Make a Difference Day, we had 10 churches get involved in different things that are happening. 13 churches are doing mobile food distributions. Now, I'm just kind of bringing you an update a little bit with what's happening in the church community. 17 churches are cooperating and working together with Spiritual Life Ministry at the Intervention Center. Rescue Mission, thank you, Council, for getting behind that. Helping to reach the homeless population in our community and sharing the love of the Lord with them. Blue Water Pregnancy Care Center. Over 800 young unwed mothers being ministered to. That's unbelievable right here in our own community. Sons, Child Evangelism, Youth for Christ, helping hundreds, if not thousands, of at-risk kids. United Methodist Church, they have 3 days where they have a store up here at the north end, everything free. Impact Ministry, once a month, everything free. Come, whatever you need. If you can see up here, we've got 48 churches on this map that are located in the different zones, the 23 zones. Several zones do not have a church. But these churches are all excited. Now, I haven't said they all signed up and got on board, but we have a new excitement about the churches cooperating and being involved with helping and assisting and cooperating with the police department and trying to keep our streets safe and working together in this endeavor. So what we're endeavoring to do, there's churches outside the city limits that are also interested in getting involved because a lot of people live in the city that go to church outside of the city limits as well too. So we've got a good cross-section and a network of people that are already interested in getting involved with this initiative. So, you know what? Are we living in some interesting times? Absolutely. Exciting new day ahead of us. And we look forward to great cooperation and participation with the Port Huron Police Department in this initiative.
Next, we'll have Pastor Alex Crittenden.
Good evening. I didn't know I'd be speaking behind Pastor Seppo. I would have changed the agenda somewhat. Mayor Rep, City Manager, members of the Port Huron Police Department, and audience. Captain Chief Reeves and Corporal Heighton. I'll be very brief. 43 years ago, I arrived in Port Huron, experienced my first major snowfall, and I decided I was going to leave and not come back. That was 43 years ago, and I'm still here, so I have a vested interest in what goes on in this city. I'm a retired school administrator, and I pastor a local church. Much time has gone into making this presentation and bringing it before you this evening. I think that's a benchmark into what is needed to make this initiative happen and actually take place. The key word is collaboration. I'm a firm believer that anything worth having is worth working for. So who does the work? It's a partnership, collaboration, and investment in the future of the city of Port Huron. So the question now becomes, who's on the team? There's strength in numbers. At this time, I would like to ask anyone in the audience, if you were invited by your pastor or your neighbor or someone to come as a direct result of being involved in the church community, and that's why you're here tonight, would you please stand? Thank you. This shows that we're on board. With regard to the Neighborhood Watch program, it's very important. I believe firmly that any drug house, any illegal activity going on in any neighborhood, if it's been there for any period of time, days or weeks, there's someone in that neighborhood. You're either a part of the solution or you are a part of the problem. if you know it's going on in your community, in your neighborhood, you should call the Port Huron Police Department. And there's an initiative going on right now. What's being said is you can call the Port Huron Police Department and feel that you're going to be listened to, that someone's going to come out and take care of the problem. We're on board. Those who stood, we're here to say we're on board. We believe in the citizens of Port Huron. We believe in the Port Huron Police Department. We believe in the vision. We stand united. You can count on us because we believe in the city of Port Huron. Thank you.
As a means to improve communication between the Port Huron Police Department and the citizens of Port Huron, the department has launched a brand-new website that can be reached at www.porthuronpolice.org. This is the homepage. Again, the icon that was introduced in the beginning of the program to your left, that is actually a hot button or a hyperlink to go to the community-oriented policing zone map. You click on the zone or any of the respective zones on the map from the website, it will immediately take you to that zone information. What you couldn't read earlier on the map, you can see now. The primary officer's name, extension number at the police department, and direct email address, along with the information for the secondary officer and the sector supervisor, all immediately available to anybody in the zone or a citizen that wants information on that zone. This is under construction. The whole website is. It's going to continually improve. There'll be additional information. One thing that's changed already, at the bottom you see for zone activity report, click here. That's actually changed and is a link to a brand new site called crimereports.com that instantly will be able to show for zones or for the city crime information that's up to date. I believe it's updated on a daily or weekly basis. One of the things that's available is the registered sex offender location. And that was represented by the slide. You know, Chief Reeves had a vision to include the crime mapping, and that's another step in the vision that has already taken place. The goals for the community-oriented policing. Again, the definition is community policing is a philosophy that promotes organizational strategies which support the systematic use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques to proactively address the immediate conditions that give rise to public safety issues such as crime, social disorder, and fear crime. Our goals are effectively respond to citizen concerns that directly affect their quality of life and develop an effective communication system between the citizens of Port Huron and the available city resources, not only the police department, and to develop a level of trust and respect between community members and the Port Huron Police Department. At the meetings I've been to, I'd like to say that we want to change perception that when one of us walks in, that the first response isn't what's wrong, but hello. In closing, and this program isn't just about developing a level of trust. It's about the police department and the Port Huron community working together towards a common goal. This goal is to improve the quality of life in Port Huron, one house, one neighborhood, and one zone at a time. Thank you.
Mayor Rep, City Council members, City Manager Brown, and citizens, as you can see, all I have to do is produce the team. They do the work. They're the stars. Corporal Heighton, Laura Phillips, the citizens, the VIPs, the people that work in that program. You know, I can't be outdone by Tom Supple because he's brought in a JFK quote. So I have to say, JFK once said, there are risks and costs to a program of action, but there are far less than the long-range risk and cost of a comfortable inaction. And that is so very true in these times. The easy road sometime is not the road we should take. You know, they say you always pass failure on the way to success, and that's how I look at this program. We're going to pass failure. We're going to pass those days that perhaps we stalled and didn't restart. We're going to pass those days that we reached an impasse and we just didn't have the strength to go around it. It's a very unusual arrangement. Not very often do you see the churches, and all these churches, step up and say, we'll work with the police department. I appreciate, I thank them. They've accepted me and my street vernacular, yes. They've accepted that and they understand and we worked well, but I appreciate their support. And I really recognize that the churches are really the backbone of this community. I hope to include and make strong ties with the business owners. I hope to include the schools and the school district and then surrounding areas and bring those in. I think we're onto something here. And I think by listening, and there's other people out there, maybe every day, we'll take another step forward. Some days we may have to take a step back, but as I said, you'll never see in action. The bottom line is successful people are willing to do things that unsuccessful people won't do. And we're here, we're committed to making this a better city, a better place to live, and a better place to work. And I think it first starts in the neighborhoods, and we've taken that start. The Port Huron Police Department is behind its neighborhoods 100%. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question before you sit down? You almost made it there, but is this actually started yet, or is it just starting?
It's up and running. The websites are up. People go home, click on the website, check your area, click on your zone, send email to the officers. I expect you to do it. It's up and running. It's working in the neighborhoods. We're receiving calls from people. Officer Heisman's, there's already a friendly little competition between officers whose zones can be the best. They're all working hard, so it's up and running. We're into it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We will move on with presentation number 3.
Chairman of the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners, Jeff Bohm, will give a presentation concerning the Blue Water Area Convention Center.
Yes. You might want to turn it, if we can, to the side so that the audience can see it too, though. I wonder if that's a little bit.
I'm going to leave these things here
Okay,
for you
and they
for
can
after
get
the
it.
fact. I've
Okay.
got some additional drawings over there. My name's Jeff Bohm, County Board Chairman. We've got Gary Fletcher, our Corporate Counsel, in attendance tonight, then Marcy with the Convention and Visitors Bureaus here. I'm just going to give you a quick overview, I guess, on the project. I know we've had we had our initial rollout. We had a couple 2.5, 3-hour public meetings, and I know many of you have attended them. I'm just going to give you the quick down and dirty here and open up for questions. The Thomas Edison Inn Convention Center, during the EDSP process that many of you were part of, there was a convention center was identified in Port Huron as a need. The original study that we took a look at was based around the McMorran Center. And out of that study, what came back with the McMorran was there wasn't a hotel attached to the property, B, or there wasn't an adjacent property. And it said you need at least 125 rooms or more. And I think at that time we had really thought McMorran was the direction we were looking for. But after spending the money on the study, which I can say was well-spent money because we've been using him quite regularly, and the guy is a wealth of knowledge, CSL, Mr. Kruger. So I would say we put it on the shelf. At the same time, the individual owner that had the Thomas Edison Inn had reached out to one of the individuals who he had done multiple projects with from Grand Rapids, a Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler came over, met with a group of us and said, I'm interested in a convention center, hotel project, so on and so forth. Are you guys interested in talking? And that's kind of where we got engaged at that juncture. The part of this that some people say, this thing seems like it's happening relatively quick, so on and so forth. We identified a need. We went through the need portion of it, the convention center for Port Huron, did the study, spent a lot of time on that. So, I mean, there was a good 6 months plus prior to that. It was just trying, I think, at the time to find the right fit. What we have is the structure of what we have come up with as far as how the partnership is going to work. There's the private ownership piece of it, and then there's the public ownership piece of it here. The private ownership piece, the J&B Development Company, there's really a couple facets here. You have the hotel manager piece of it, hospitality specialist, which is actually even one of the owners in the hotel. They are the largest owner and operator of Hilton and Marriott properties in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. They have over 20 properties, and they've got another 4 or 5 in the works. Tremendous amount of expertise. Many of you know the Hilton franchise has signed on to this, and as of recently, it went from a Hilton Garden Inn to a Hilton Doubletree, which is a higher-end product. Hilton likes the property that much that they want to put a higher flag on it, so to speak. The food and beverage piece of it, the Meritage Hospitality Group, which is one of the owners also on the property, is a partner. When I'm talking about owners, they have some partners in it. Meritage currently owns and operates 89 restaurants in Michigan. Design Plus is the individuals that they engaged in to help design, who has done multiple properties. We along with Design Plus, we went out and we're in the process of hiring a design consultant that specializes in convention centers to help us with the design and layout and the functionality piece of it. And I think we're real sensitive to this as far as we need to bring the right people in to help us do this, from the convention, sports and leisure, for the process, what we should be doing, to the design. We don't want to lay a goose egg on this thing. Construction piece of it, you see Orient Construction, John Wheeler, one of the owners, founder of Rockford Construction, Grand Rapids. You can go online and look at what the laundry list of projects they have done. They are going to operate in a construction management capacity. What a construction management capacity is they work on a fee, 4%. They go out. Part of our resolution says 70% local labor, 70% local material on our end of it. Same as we've done on a lot of our projects, where they go out and they qualify bidders. They go out and get bidders. We're going to have a group together that is going to then select the individual contractors. We want to keep as much in-house as we can. You get into the public piece of this here. You've got the marketing piece of it, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which Marcy's here if you have questions for her. Like I said, they've signed on a commitment of 1%, 20% of their total revenue towards the project. Really, I think Marcy was one of the people that were very instrumental in helping us get to this point, because she's our front person with the Discover the Blue, constantly out talking to everybody. People are calling her. We didn't really have the facility, and that's where I think the initial need came from. If you get in the convention management piece of this, hospitality specialists, which is the hotel piece, also has the ability to manage. I think the exciting part of this, which I like, are all the synergies that are into this thing. Because if you were a freestanding convention center, there's a lot of staffing requirements that are needed. By actually bringing the Convention and Visitors Bureau, will actually be housed in there. Marcy, Convention and Visitors Bureau, they're going to hire somebody to help go out after and get the conventions. The hospitality specialist piece, if you look at what their staffing requirements are on a Hilton, it's a lot. It's twice of what they have over there today. We're talking manager, general managers, 4 full-time maintenance people, 3 full-time salespeople. There's a lot of those things that the abilities they have to do to help manage it in coordination with Marcy is going to be huge and really bring the cost of this down. If you look at the layout, which I have here, it shows in the blue is the hotel, in the orange is the Twisted Rooster, that's the brand of the restaurant, and the yellow piece is the convention center. Over here on the right is the Baker College piece that shows student housing to come at a later date. The concept, if you look at the yellow, these are not finalized drawings yet, okay? These are conceptual drawings. We're going to be honing in on those. Currently, what the county is proposing to do is buy 11,000 square foot of the existing Thomas Edison. And if you've ever been into the breakout rooms, it's going to be condominiumized. The breakout rooms that have where you've had weddings, 11,000 square foot part, the couple additional rooms that are the smaller breakout rooms. If you can envision that wing, the county will own, and then we're going to be constructing the freestanding convention piece onto that, up to 25,000 square foot, right there, close to the number. Where we're at in this process, the county has a resolution in support of. We got to the point where, to start talking about this, into concept and everything else, we're there. Now, we're at the point where if we decide we're going to move forward with this thing, we got to start spending some real money, okay? And if you look at our resolution, a lot of the things that are in our county's resolution says the owner has to do X, Y, and Z before the county will go ahead with their piece of it, okay? They would like to get started right away on their end of it, the hotel end of it. Slow season right now, get done, restaurant. Baker College wants to break ground right away. The county's piece of it will really be in May, June, somewhere in there on our end of it. And if you have any of the questions, resolution questions, like I said, we've got Gary here, and I'm just talking fast. I could stretch this thing out for 2 hours if you want it. But that's kind of the overall picture. I'd like to open it up to the floor for any questions.
Does anyone on council have questions for Jeff?
I know many of you have been at our meetings and things.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
I think most of us spend in most of the meetings and know a lot of what's going on. When will the county be voting on the bonding for the convention?
Our final is Wednesday. It passed our committee meeting this Wednesday is our final action on it. And it's been in front of us a while. We've talked about it. And like I said, had a couple 2.5-hour meetings multiple times, which many of you were here. And we've answered, I think, question and answer with the public as much as, we could.
Anyone else on council? Yes, Councilmember Harris.
One of the questions I have, I know the county says basically it's going to end up with 100 jobs, that are going to continue. Well, the county already has 379 part-time employees who don't get any benefits. And I wonder if we're going to be contributing to this no benefit type of employee with this 100 people. Because I can imagine only 70 of them will basically make any money.
Currently, they employ roughly 100. They're saying their estimates are 200. Even if you cut that in half, you're going to know there's going to be an additional 50 people that they're going to hire. The county's not going to be hiring those individuals. The Baker College piece, that Baker's their own money. They're going to be doing their own hiring. The hotel, the county, we may have to hire 4 to 6 somewhere in there in our staffing requirements. Any hirings we would have to do would be a general manager type of level, in there.
Well, finally, the last question I have, I've been in contact with several of the county employees and some of their groups, and I guess their big concern is right now the retirees are going to get held with higher health costs, and I don't know if it's right part of this project or not. But there are just some things that are trickling down to the county employees, and I guess the problem they have is it affecting their wages and benefits? And I think that we have to take that into consideration and let these people know whether it's going to affect them more in the future.
The absolute worst-case scenario on this is roughly a $300,000 deficit. I think the numbers are going to be on that, and if you've looked at any estimates that we've used on this, we haven't painted the rosy picture, but I can tell you some of the revenue estimates we have used. For example, the rental space. Currently, the facility receives $200,000 in rental just in the breakout rooms. We're using $252,000 as the number. I'm assuming that's going to be higher. But you got to go into this thing not saying that this thing's going to be, grandiose. I mean, if it does cost us some money, it's only going to get better. If I came in here and told you we're going to break even on this thing and we lost $300,000, you'd be the first. I don't want to say you would be, but everybody would. If anything, we're saying worst case scenario gets better from here. And anybody that talks about that, I can tell you, I've been on the board for 7 years now. This is the best project that's rolled in front of myself in the 7 years. And I get first look at pretty much everything that goes on in St. Clair County. So doing nothing a lot of times, granted, a lot of these things that we look at, we probably don't even consider because we don't think they're viable projects. This, we believe, is a viable project and will help help move some other things along. And I can just tell you, talking to some of the other people on the street, I think it does bring some excitement to the community. And, from a county perspective, if anybody receives the biggest benefit out of this, it's Port Huron. And, we've gotten a lot of support countywide on it, so.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
No questions, but I have a comment, just to,
Yes,
while
go
you're
ahead.
standing there, I'd just like to thank you for your support and participation and initiative, actually, from the county in doing this. And I think it's a wonderful project, and I think we need to not lose sight of the ripple effect. Yes, it may lose money for the county, but the ripple effect of what it's going to do.
I'll drag Marcy up here since she's sitting here, and she can talk to you about the.
Definitely. That ripple
dollar
effect
per
is huge,
spending
and I
and
think we
stuff.
need to weigh that against what it's going to cost.
I always feel extra short here. Talking about jobs too, if I can just add that, you're saying the trickle effect, the spinoff. for other jobs to be created throughout the city and the county. When the hotel, the restaurant, the convention center continues to grow and get busier, your cleaning supplies, your glassware, your food products that the hotels, the restaurant, and the convention center will be ordering will really support the city and the county with creating jobs. But in the past, we've really had the Thomas Edison Inn, and we've had McMorran for bringing in conventions. And as I said, in the past, it's been very difficult for us. We've been able to bring conventions in of about 200 people because of the breakout rooms. We have a ballroom that holds 400 people, but you can't put 400 people in the ballroom because you have no place to feed those 400 people, or you have no breakouts for their meetings. So we've really been, tied back to the number of attendees. And we have so many requests to come to this area for conventions. And I've always said, and Jeff's heard me say this a million times, it's not how many conventions we bring into the community, it's how many we have to turn down because we don't have a venue large enough. And again, it's a trickle effect. You have the Thomas Edison Inn, which will be a Hilton product. They'll be your headquarters, but then you have all the hotels on Water Street and here in Port Huron, the days, and that will benefit from this because they won't all be able to be housed in one hotel. They'll have to stay in all the hotels. And having shuttle service to bring them to our downtowns, to our restaurants. We're so unique, and that's the beauty of this community of Port Huron for conventions is the uniqueness that they can't get in other communities. So I'm very excited. There's a lot of talk in Lansing. I was in Traverse City 2 weeks ago at a conference, and we're, a big part of the conversation there, which is very exciting because we haven't been able to be part of that in the past, but now we are being looked at as a convention site. If you go to MPI, which is Michigan Meeting Planners, on their newsletter this last month and this month, they're mentioning the possibilities of the convention center in Port Huron, and it's a shoreline convention center, so it's exciting. So it's just a great opportunity.
Thanks, Marcy. Well, thank you very much, and I agree with Sherry. This is a wonderful opportunity, and we thank everyone that's been involved with it. Thank you. We certainly, I know that the Thomas Edison Inn, if lacking this project, would probably be closing down, and that's definitely not something that we want. So thank you very much. We'll move on to public hearings.
Public hearing number 1 is to hear comments on code case number 11-052, located at 929 Wall Street. And it is to determine whether or not it constitutes a nuisance as defined by Chapter 10, Section 10-211, and Chapter 34, Section 34-3 of the Port Huron City Code. Following the public hearing, council will give consideration to a resolution to approve the immediate demolition of the structure for listed violations.
Open up the hearing, and if anyone in the audience wishes to address the council on code case number 11052, please come forward at this time and give your name. And I believe Ms. Harmer is going to give us some background on this before we get started.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The property at 929 Wall Street was a victim of a fire, and the property itself, both the police department and the fire department have completed their investigation. The property owner has hired a public adjuster and is also being served by an insurance company's claims adjuster. I've had the opportunity to either meet with or speak with on the telephone both of those individuals and to tour the building. And it was last week when we went through and advised both the insurance claims adjuster and the public adjuster, as well as the property owner, that we would move forward with bringing this issue to council in hopes of achieving a resolution for immediate demolition. They've assured us that they are continuing to work through the claim and processing that, but I felt that it was important to parallel track this with your approval so that if we don't get resolution from the insurance companies, we will be able to be in a position to move forward with the demolition. The garage structure has already been demolished, and we were out at the site again last week to verify that. The building has been secured, as you can see, with the plywood, but again, according to our inspection on the interior, it's really not a case where there is anything left of the structure that would make any type of financial feasibility to renovate. And we've made the property owner aware of that through our building official.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the public hearing for 929 Wall Street? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed, and is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Moeller. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Any discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes?
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We'll move on to public comment. Now is the time for anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council. You can come to the podium, and you have 4 minutes. If you'd state your name, please.
Wonderful sound effects. Donna Clune, and I'm from Zone 11. I paid attention to the presentation. And Zone 11, I not too fondly refer to as Port Huron's Cass Corridor. We have the drugs, we have the crime, we have the filth, and we have the lack of civility. I was very angry when I came here tonight. I had a lot of negativity, but the police department mellowed me out. They gave me hope. Finally, somebody is going to do something about deteriorating neighborhoods, and mine is the worst of the worst. I live on 11th. There has been a murder on 12th, on 13th, one down on Wells, and drug houses just jump from rental to rental. And I think that my zone is a zone that a lot of patience and time is going to be spent with. But I do want to share some of the things I wrote down with you because I think I deserve a better life. I think the people in the area deserve a better life. Everyone has a breaking point, and I've reached mine. Enough is enough. And as community leaders, I personally feel that you spend more time with things like convention centers, downtown Port Huron, which could use a lot of help, and things that are more or less money makers than helping to foster and ensure the quality of life for the people in this community. And as you all know, people keep leaving, and they have every reason to leave. Actually, tonight, the remarks I'm making are not only for me, they're for other people that are actually too scared to come down here. They've been threatened. That's how bad Zone 11 is. I am going to read a message I gave to Talkback in our newspaper. They always cut me off if they disagree with me, and they alleviate my target points. The new projects in Port Huron are exciting, but the south side is still broken. Crime is still prevalent. Several gunshots were heard in my neighborhood again last week. Some slum landlords are golden. I'm not sure if it's because they are insiders or because they own so many properties, their contribution to the tax base makes the city tread lightly. Right now, I'm looking at two mattresses, nasty and stained, a landlord left in front of the house across the street. This landlord has been turned in repeatedly, but I bet when I do a freedom of information, he's never been fined. The mattresses were my breaking point. They were there for 6 days. On the second day, I just quit opening my blinds. It's a sad day for Port Huron when people can't even go to their window and open it up because of the filth outside. And as I said, I feel personally that the area I live in is a mirror image of Cass Corridor. The house I'm mentioning has been a drug house twice, not once but twice. It's had a coven of witches in it, which you might find amusing, but trust me, it wasn't. And the last tenants were very noisy bikers. I'm sure none of that you would want in your backyard. My time is up.
But if you can wrap it up, you can continue.
How about I come back next meeting because it's too long? But quickly, I do want to thank the police department. They've given me hope, and I think they've given hope to the rest of the citizens here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Jeffries, 3108 Electric Avenue, Arbors of St. Clair. I am the co-captain for our Neighborhood Watch, and I just want to support Chief Reeves and what he's doing. I thank the Lord for him being here. The program is up and running. Our officer is Officer Pez, that I've communicated with 4 or 5 times, and he gets right back to me. We've had attempted break-ins in car. One gentleman was intoxicated on his bicycle, and they took care of that. But the point of the matter is, we have 108 units, and our manager, Kathy Brofu, is a VIP. She's been doing an excellent job in managing the property. We're very fortunate. We have a very quiet facility compared to across the street, which is Village Manor, and we've had a lot of problems in the town because of that. Our goal is to keep things the way they are and improve them. Citizens are very thankful that the police are there. We have another officer besides Officer Pez, and we're going to have a meeting January 17th where both of them are going to be there. And people want to make things known, but if they're afraid, they want to be anonymous, what they do is they contact myself as their captain, and then I relay it to the captain or the police officer, and it's been working very well. It's a program that is definitely going to turn the city around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting old, it's getting hard to get up here. My name is Don Lee, and I live at 11th and Bancroft. In 2007, I started a neighborhood watch going because we had drug houses and we had trouble walking down the streets. Now, we've got a good neighborhood. Once in a while, we'll get the one that comes through and is going to try, but we close him down. And this lady here, I would tell her, anybody in your neighborhood that wants to talk to me, I will help you. I will get you going good. And Mr. Reeves, I heard excellent stuff about him, and I'm 100% for him. And I'll do anything in the world to help him or any of the police department. And that sign right here, let me have this. This sign right here, Pride in Port Huron, it has done wonders. I don't know if anybody's noticed all the Christmas decorations this year. Everybody's decorating, that never before even. I personally walked around and talked to these people, and they said, like this Beloit, our neighborhoods are cleaning up. They drove around, they seen all kinds of these signs, and it just gave them a new feeling and got them back in the mood to decorating again for Christmas. And I'm up all night. I'm a crazy truck driver that never slept, and I'm still that way yet today. And I want to warn everybody, we got a paper boy man down the street, and the other morning I seen 2 people walking down the road with a big burlap bag over their shoulders or a big leaf bag, and they go to every house that didn't have a porch light on. So the next couple nights I see one guy doing it. So this guy has got security on his house. I asked him to check his cameras. And before he went to check his cameras, he says, when he's delivering papers in the morning, he sees drug boxes, gifts, sitting on the porch all night. And That's what the people are after, that's going around. And you could see him with a little flashlight in his hand, and anybody that didn't have a porch light up, he'd go right up on their lights, right up on their porch, with no lights. And they do this between 3 and 5:30 in the morning when you're in your deepest sleep and you want to shut the alarm off. And that's when they're out there. And I see it all the time. And I know who a couple of them are. I can't give names naturally, but we're getting it narrowed down to where we're going to do something about that too. But just a warning, if you got anything being on your porch all night or drugs coming in, or I shouldn't say drugs, medications coming in, legal stuff, make sure you get it in at night. Don't leave it on your porch all night. And that's it. And thank you very much.
Thank
you. One thing else, I think we got an excellent crew up here. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Shirley Watts, and I'd like to do a little comment. I started a neighborhood watch in 1993 on White Street because of what I seen, and it took me 4 months to get the neighbors to believe it. That's when I started one. Second, I don't belong to a church. I have my own faith in God. You gotta have a personal relationship with God. I have one. When I tried to get the churches to do something, they didn't want to do anything. I come down here and I speak of what I see by myself. Each came to my house, and I really didn't have too much to say. They said they want to pray for me, and I feel as though the best person to pray for me is myself. Because who knows what lurks in the hearts of men? You know, and I'm not saying that to be funny or anything like that, but, you know, I'm a resident of Port Huron. I grew up in Port Huron, but I was gone 40 years, so I don't really know anybody. And so my philosophy is to pray for myself, you know. And someone I know that may not have malice in their heart for me, because you don't know. See, that's something for a person to need to think about. But however, you know, I do stand behind the police, because the first time when my grandmother, my German grandmother, was being robbed out of $45,000, Captain Jones, Lieutenant Jones, he know who I am. He know who I am. And he know I took care of business. I tried to bring him in from the border, everything. Everything he asked me to do, I had did it already. This was my grandmother, my German grandmother. The other comment is, we gave that man last month that came in that owned that building that wanted to do something with wind something. Okay, we gave him all those right to a tax break for 12 years. And he's not going to bring no jobs here. I know that. And then the other guy that's talking whatever, and that's not going to be any jobs here, because you bring your crew with you. You got to bring the crew with you, because that's seniority. I worked at Detroit Tank Plant a long time. I'm an LPN. I work for some of the richest people in the world. I also work for the city of Detroit. I was a junior clerk, and I also was a bus driver. I drove semi-trucks, everything they had, I drove them. So what I'm saying is, I know it's not any jobs going to come, and I hate this because you made a very good comment, you know, 70% may get a job, and he's talking on a high level. Okay, what about the people that's starving to death? I see people hungry every day here. I'm glad the police officers getting together. So when I first came back, I said, "My, look at all these homeless people in Port Huron." This is one of the most poverty-ridden places I've seen in a long time. And I came back from Detroit. But you can eat in Detroit 7 days a week. And that's the honest God truth. And a good meal, but you can't do it here. When you start. When it starts. The Salvation Army in Detroit have gave food away. I think they're finna do it here. And I'm saying these things because I think they're beautiful. That's why I'm saying these things. I think they're beautiful. They had been giving lunches away and everything. The Dauphins or whoever they didn't help drive the trucks, send them over. They've been doing it, and I was in Detroit 40 years. And I've seen this 40 years. You can't, soup kitchen? I tried to talk to the church, and I said, why don't you do something? People don't eat once a month. They eat every day. You know, and this is my concern. You know, and far as downtown is concerned, use my more auditorium. You tore down Peerless Cement, that was a job for people. Edison Inn is not making any money. Nobody, I've been in Edison Inn, I've took time in Edison Inn. It's
Ms.
not
Watts, your
important.
time, your 4 minutes is up.
Okay, well, have a great day.
Thank you.
Evening, because it is not daytime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Monica Mercurio. I've gone to all these county meetings and everything about the Thomas Edison Inn Convention Center. Picked up the impact report. The impact report that, according to the Bureau of Statistics and Analysts, says these figures are from 2002. The numbers for the jobs keep changing. On the original rollout, it was 200. Tonight, Mr. Bone said 50. He was quoted in the Times Herald as saying 100. This impact report has a whole totally different number. Maybe that's because it's based on 2002 data. Mr. Bone and Mr. Wheeler both claimed on that very first meeting at the county that Impact Data Source was the go-to place. These were the quality people for an impact report. That's what they told us. Mr. Wheeler told us that there would be 12 additional people at the hotel and restaurant combined. This says 66. Tonight he said there's going to be 6 for the Convention and Visitor Bureau, for the Conventioner Center. This doesn't say that. But the most concerning thing that this thing says is the city of Port Huron will construct and operate a new convention center near the Thomas Edison Inn. This was the go-to people. They didn't know who was actually building it. You all realize that that was in this impact study that's been waved around all around town recently. So now we have a new go-to person. We have the CSL group, and in their memorandum that they sent off, they have a whole nother conclusion. They say that we're going to lose about $42,000 at the end of the day. They won't cover their own operating cost. And this CSL group, who is really good, Bill Kruger, in his final analysis, he says, lastly, it is important to recognize that the economic impacts of the new convention center would generate for the city and county will likely be lower than those presented in CSL's previous study. The previous study was about McMorran. We're going to build this one to get a lower impact than if we had actually done the McMorran one, and we would have had a better impact. That's information I'm getting out of impact studies. Impact studies that Mr. Casey said he has to have before he can file the I-69 paperwork for the state. He can't file it. You can sign it tonight. He could have everybody's signature in his back pocket, and the state says they can't take it till there's an impact study. And none of us have seen one. What if it has some little tidbit in it? You all promised to do due diligence. Is there an impact study in your report or in your packet this week? Because I haven't been able to find it. Do due diligence, get the impact study before you put a signature on this I-69 corridor deal. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Rep, City Council members, City of Port Huron. My name's Garth Gonzi, and I just briefly wanted to talk about the Port Huron Police Department real quick, and Chief Michael Reeves' initiative for community policing. I believe that community policing today is our strongest model of policing. It's been around for quite a while, and I totally commend the Chief and the Port Huron Police Department for this initiative. And I'm willing to help you out, Chief, on that in any way I can. But I'd like to ask the Chief to keep an eye on Santa Cruz, California. They are doing a new model of policing. It's called predictive. It's just what it is. They try to predict crimes ahead of time anyways. But I know it sounds crazy and stuff, but there's a lot of models of policing and stuff. I just asking the Chief to keep an eye on them. They're just experimenting with this program now. And I do believe that if it does work out, it might be beneficial here in Port Huron also. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and stuff, and congratulations on your guys' election winnings and stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.